We must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. How you doing, E-Bone? Lightly screening the calls here in the world headquarters, Madison, Wisconsin. And no Dominic, he'll be back on Tuesday, taking a little time with his sweetie. But I've got the incomparable Batman co-deviling with me today here in the Madison studios. Matt Rothschild, welcome back.
Thanks, Trudy. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
And of course, you are from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, the executive director thereof. That's sort of a big deal. The watchdogs of campaign spending and all kinds of political spend. But Matt, we got you here today as a pundit, as a sidekick, as a co-devil. Looking forward to it. And we got an intriguing headline right from the top. And my only regret, we do this little program, this little foray on the airwaves, 4 to 6 p.m. And it seems like Bruce Murphy over at Urban Milwaukee, I mean, he's one of the hardest working political journalists in the state, one of the few remaining political journalists in the state. And Bruce drops late columns. And yesterday we missed the headline. Bruce Murphy dropped a big old bombshell, to my opinion, about Bob Spindell. And you may say, Bob Spindell, who's that? Well, first and foremost, I hold the fact that he is a fraudulent Trump elector against him. He is a Wisconsin elections commissioner, one of the 3 Republican appointees, but he's also being extensively quoted in the Bruce Murphy. Matt, how you doing, man?
I mean, this is an incredible coup, journalistic coup by Bruce Murphy, who I admire a great deal at Urban Milwaukee. That's urbanmilwaukee.com. He's been a veteran investigative reporter here in Wisconsin for years and years. And yeah, he busted this thing wide open about Spindell. So Spindell is this Republican hack who Devin LeMahieu put on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Spindell is one of the false electors, like you pointed out, Crudy. On the Wisconsin Elections Commission, Spindell wouldn't even recuse himself when Law Forward brought a complaint that the false electors were violating our campaign finance laws. So he's got no ethics whatsoever. We knew that. But what we didn't know was that he was going to brag about voter suppression of Black and Latino voters in Milwaukee. And so what happened was somehow Bruce Murphy got hold of an email that Spindell had sent out to his fellow Republicans, because he is a chairman of the Republican Party's 4th congressional district, which includes Milwaukee. And Spindell couldn't help himself from bragging about
sort of a post-mortem email, if you will, Batman.
A post-mortem gloat about how they were so successful in suppressing Black and Latino votes in Milwaukee. And, as soon as I saw that, I was saying, wow, this story is a blockbuster. And I tried to, I put it on Facebook and Twitter and tried to get other folks to pay attention to it. And a lot of people saw the same thing and had the same response as I did. So AP put it out, Scott Bauer put it out, Molly Beck covered it at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It's a big story. People are calling for him to resign, including Ann Jacobs and Mark Thompson, 2 of the Democratic commissioners on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And a lot of people are telling Devin LeMahieu to fire him, basically, because LeMahieu has that power.
The Republican Senate leader who appointed Spindell to this elections commission.
The Senate Majority Leader, the second most powerful person in the legislature.
Who's the most powerful?
Robin Voss's
How is the assembly guy more
baby
powerful?
Brother. There he is. I mean, if you've ever seen the 2 of them together, I mean, LeMahieu barely opens his mouth. He just let Voss do all the talking. I mean, that's how they were on the gerrymandering issue. And that's how they are on most things. But on this one, it is squarely in LeMahieu's lap. So I am urging listeners to contact Devin LeMahieu. Here's his phone number, 608-266 2056. The 608 is easy. You know the 608. So all you got to remember is 266-2056. Call Devin LeMahieu and tell him to drop Spindell. Spindell has got to go. Or you can send him a tweet at Senator Devin. That's DEVIN. Send him a tweet and tell him to get rid of him. Or send him an email at sen.lemaheu. That's LEMA, Lemma, HIEU, at legis.wis.gov, and tell him to drop Bob Spindell. Bob Spindell's got to go.
You look like me there for a moment, Batman, trying to spell LeMahieu.
LeMahieu. You know, I've heard it's pronounced both ways. I got, the weird thing is I have a letter from LeMahieu up on my wall, because the first thing I did when I got to be at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign 8 years ago was I went and testified about money in politics, and we need disclosure of dark money. And so LeMahieu says, well, are you going to disclose your donors? Like it was a big gotcha. And I had a Post-it note on my computer. We've got to list our donors to the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. So I said, I'm glad you asked that question, because we're doing that tomorrow. And then he sent me a handwritten note. Thanks for testifying. So since this was one of the first things I did at my job, I figured I'll put that memento up on the wall. But there it is. I mean, Devin LeMahieu, he's a right-wing Republican. He is, understudy to Robin Voss, but here he has the power to get rid of Bob Spindell. And anyone who believes that voter suppression is against our democracy, anyone who is repulsed by the fact that this Republican would brag about suppressing especially Black and Latino votes, given the sordid history of the United States, let's get on Senator LeMahieu's tail and tell him to get rid of this guy.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I got a fine co-devil today. He is Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Call him Batman up around here. And yesterday I was late to the party. The Bruce Murphy, the breaking this very important story about Elections Commissioner Bob Spindell and his glee over the suppression of Black votes in Milwaukee. And they call it a game plan. He's very proud of how this was accomplished. But there's some updated reporting by Bruce Murphy today. This dropped just a few hours ago, 1 o'clock this afternoon. According to Murphy, Spindell defends himself and spins his comments. Now, again, these were emails. So the entirety of the context was known to Murphy. He had the emails. And the emails were sent out as the 4th Congressional District chair of the Republican Party of the great state of Wisconsin, this little postmortem Christmas missive sort of bragging about the outcome. And that is, what was the basis of Murphy's reporting. And now it's all over the press. As pointed out by Batman, Associated Press dropped a story. Molly Beck dropped a story. And when we come back, our buddy, I guess we got more time. What am I doing? I thought we're down to our last minute here. Let's jump into it. Crudy now looks at the clock and realizes we've got a little more time. On Monday, Urban Milwaukee published a column. The column yesterday, we've been talking about it. GOP leader, that's Bob Spindell, thrilled to suppress city vote, the city being Milwaukee, which quoted an email message sent on January 2nd, I guess post-Christmas, to Republicans in the 4th Congressional District by District Chair Robert Spindell, Bob, bragging about the party's effort to suppress the vote in predominantly minority neighborhoods. Here's a quote from today's column. We can be especially proud of the city of Milwaukee, 80.2% Dem vote, casting 37,000 less votes than cast in the 2018 election, with the major reduction happening in the overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic areas. You're hearing him brag about basically suppressing Black and Latino votes, right, man?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty blunt there. Especially proud of suppressing the votes in Black and Latino areas in Milwaukee. I mean, come on now, man.
So here's more from Bruce Murphy today. This is the update. Since Spindell is also a member of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, this comment has caused outrage from Democrats, calling for Spindell to step down from the commission. Guys like Mark Thompson, you hear him here on Monday nights, the Paul Revere Show, Ann Jacobs She was the outgoing chair of this commission. Hell, Bob Spindell thought he should have been the chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. But back to Murphy's reporting and coverage by the Associated Press and Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. In an effort to defend himself, Spindell sent the AP and the Journal-Sentinel a 5-page memo. He says he wrote, which sounds very different from the January 2nd memo. The AP story offers this quote from Spindell. This is the new quote. This is the change of tune quote. The Democratic candidates were unable to obtain, even though they really tried hard, the votes they needed, expected, and demanded from the Black community. There is a great deal of much more concentrated work we need to do in Black and Hispanic communities, but continuing to show how Democratic elected officials and candidates are not watching out for the livelihoods of people who live in these areas, and the Republicans can. Now, the Journal-Sentinel story by Molly Beck chooses not to quote the line from Spindell's January 2nd email crowing about reducing the vote in overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. And the paper ran a headline saying he was proud of the lower turnout in Milwaukee. The AP headline, by contrast, says he bragged about the GOP efforts in 2022 to suppress votes in the areas with Black and Hispanic populations. Anyways, a little bit more from the Journal-Sentinel story, again, being quoted by Bruce Murphy at Urban Milwaukee today. We must remember, in the strategy of things, it is often extremely difficult and hard to convert a hardcore, long-term generation-type Democrat to all of a sudden bring himself or herself around to vote for a Republican. However, here's the quiet part out loud, folks. However, by our Republican efforts pointing out strongly how the Democratic candidates are worse than, or certainly not better than their perception of Republican candidates at all levels, they hopefully cannot bring themselves to vote for either one. In a Democrat city or Democrat county where up to 80% of the people are voting for the Democrats, that's a good thing and helped ensure that Ron Johnson got over the goal line, Batman.
I mean, there it is in black and white. Voter suppression is a good thing. This is from Bob Spindell, who still unbelievably sits on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. This guy's got to go. That's outrageous.
It would seem that Republicans would disagree with you, Matt. I heard the talk on Righty Whitey Talk Radio. They take a different spin. More Devils. We'll be right back.
Did you say Spanky was in a lot of trouble?
What is dedication?
My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much, from the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so that they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
But do you think the Biden administration's calling up Laura Ingraham and making the announcement to the world that we're invading Russia with amphibious troops? Come on, Trump. I mean, and I want to hear fine Trumpsters that want to defend that crap. You know, he's a little late for the early bird buffet. Maybe you people were just naive marks who believed he was a super genius. Then I got some land I'd like to sell you outside of Fukushima.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But it gave my mom and me more time to plan, together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Weather brought to you by the Joint Chiropractic. Take advantage of their New Year's promotion now. Buy a 10-month wellness plan and get 2 months free, and use your HSA or FSA dollars to do it. Visit them at any of their 4 Madison locations.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Chance for mixed precipitation, becoming all snow tonight, otherwise cloudy. Lows around 24, northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Highs around 31 tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun. Tomorrow night, lows dip down to about 16. Dry with temperatures well above average Saturday and Sunday, and highs from the upper 30s to the low 40s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I got Batman here, co-deviling with me all day long. He is Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And we will, although I always have reservations when I, say call us, but call us. We'll take your calls. 844-967-2789. The most troubling headline of the great state of Wisconsin. I think, Batman, we agree that a Wisconsin elections commissioner is bragging about the suppression of Black and Latino votes. And really, in his initial email to the 4th CD, where he is apparently the Republican chair, the initial reporting from Bruce Murphy, not sort of take the sharp edges out of it, letter that he sent off to these other press organizations, Spindell effectively said this was a directed campaign. We can't convince them to vote Republican, but if we run enough negative ads, effectively, we will convince them everybody's bad. Stay home. What a strong endorsement for democracy this elections commissioner makes, don't you think, man?
I mean, it's just disgraceful. He's crowing about, and this is a direct quote now from his email, the major reduction happening in the overwhelming Black and Hispanic areas. And he was crediting, the biting Black radio negative commercials that the Republicans were running in the last couple of weeks of the election. This is, knowledge and malice aforethought that they were trying to suppress the vote. And it's been long established Republican game plan. The fewer voters who vote, the better it is for Republicans. That was the whole idea behind voter ID and Scott Walker. And here we have it in a racist admission, actually, from Bob Spindell.
Well, it shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that pays attention around in this great state, because whether it is a direct, hey, we suppress Black votes, like, Bob Spindell apparently saying out loud, or, just the crime of Milwaukee. There often seemingly are these broad characterizations directed at the most metropolitan city in the state. But Matt, if truly these efforts, and if we compare, and I did not verify the veracity of the January 2nd email by Bob Spindell off to the 4th CD Republicans, but if what he says is true, if they depress the Milwaukee vote amongst Black and Latinos by 37,000 votes, and Mandela Barnes effectively lost by 27,000 votes, well, Ron Johnson effectively owes his reelection to this negative campaign. I guess they are crowing about it.
Yeah, and, Mandela,
mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, Mandela Barnes also was the victim of really racist ads from Ron Johnson and from the misnamed Wisconsin Truth PAC that was funded by Diane Hendricks and Richard Eline. And Barnes himself, I mean, let's be frank, ran horrible ads himself and bears some responsibility, too, for losing. But the fact that he was the victim of this highly organized effort to suppress Black and Latino votes, and the person who was one of the people behind it was Robert Spindell, one of the Wisconsin elections commissioners. And that guy still is a Wisconsin elections commissioner. Come on now. Isn't there going to be some accountability or responsibility here? He should be kicked off. I'm urging people to contact Senator Lemieux's office, 608-266-2056. Spindell's got to be fired. I also think Josh Call's got to go after the false electors. Bob Spindell's one of the false electors. Where's Josh Call? He's got to get off his tail and do something about this too. But there's one thing in this email that Bruce Murphy just published. He published the January 2nd email of Bob Spindell. Just jumped out at me, just saw it for the first time. Wisconsin Election Commission's willingness to help solve Republican encountered problems. Wow. He's saying that he's using the Wisconsin Elections Commission to help solve his partisan problems. So we got a real problem on our Wisconsin Elections Commission when we have someone who is willing to stoop so low as to suppress Black and Latino votes in Milwaukee and then brag about it. I don't know which thing is worse, doing the suppression itself or then bragging about it, but both are pretty horrible.
I'm not clear. Certainly it is suppression, and it's all pretty bad. The worst part is that the guy was a fraudulent Trump elector and probably committed a crime, to my assessment, just layman's opinion on this. And I do think Josh Call, the democratically elected attorney general, should get up off his ass and do something. Now, Josh Call told me when I interviewed him at the Democratic Party convention way back in into June last year, well, we're going to be deferential to the federal investigations, the DOJ, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fair enough. Dana Nessel, who is the Attorney General of Michigan, also a Democrat, as fate would have it, she ain't waiting. She gave them enough time. And she said, well, clearly, in Michigan's case, I believe it's 16 fraudulent Trump electors in Michigan, clearly broke Michigan law. I don't need to wait on the Department of Justice. And to my assessment, Batman, I think you and I agree on this, Josh Call sure as hell shouldn't be waiting on the DOJ. What is your job, sir?
Yeah, we've got laws on the books here in Wisconsin against fraud, against impersonating elected officials or officials. So Josh Call and Ishozan, for that matter, the DA here in Dane County, could press charges against Spindell and the other false electors. Look, there's got to be some accountability for this. I agree with you. These false electors in Wisconsin shouldn't get away with it. There's no reason to wait for Merrick Garland or Jack Smith. Let's get on it. And Josh Call, maybe in June when he was talking to you, Crudy, he thought, well, I don't want to be controversial here. I got to win my reelection. He won his reelection. He's in for 4 years. And Ishozan's got nothing to worry about in Dane County here because this is a very solid blue place. He'd get more popularity if he went after the false electors. We need accountability for the people who are violating the laws here in Wisconsin, trying to deprive us of our right to vote. They wanted to throw away 1,600,000 votes here for Biden. And then this Spindell guy's got to go for this admission of racist voter suppression. We can't let this stuff stand.
Folks who are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show got a special co-devil all day long. He's Batman. He's my good friend, Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. But it's you that makes the show go when you join us, when you're a part. We're going to the phones next. The lines, they're open and toll free. 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates, more Batman, and you on the phones next.
Yes, we will be holding them accountable.
This is really a stinkeroo.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on a box.
ABC News, I'm Rena Roy. A growing probe into the batch of classified documents discovered by attorneys of President Biden at a former office and his Delaware home. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed special counsel Robert Hur to head the investigation.
The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter.
ABC News Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has more on Hur, a Trump-appointed former U.S. attorney from Maryland.
He's a person who has familiarity with the chief law enforcement agency that will be working with him in trying to figure out how these documents got to both the Penn Biden Center and to the vice president's and now president's home.
President Biden says he's cooperating with the probe. The CDC is warning the pandemic has had a negative impact on routine childhood immunizations. Health officials say fewer kids today are being vaccinated against preventable diseases like measles. This is ABC News.
With better reception than new tinfoil hats, why listen to any other station? 92.7 FM and WGTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for Devil Radio.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matner with your headlines. A proposal called Parental Rights and Transparency was unanimously approved by the Waukesha Board of Education Wednesday night. Under the measure, district staff aren't allowed to call a minor student by names, nicknames, or pronouns other than those commonly shortened or abbreviated full names or pronouns consistent with the student's biological sex without the parent's written permission. Regarding sports, students will participate in programs consistent with their biological sex and the rules of the WIAA. Parents can opt their kids out of classes or lessons that may not align with the family's deeply held personal or religious beliefs. A dairy farmer from Viroqua has been appointed to the Wisconsin DNR board. Governor Evers announcing Wednesday Paul Burr will take his position on the board on January 20th. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM. 1580 AM.
You wanted information as election results rolled in, and the Civic Media network of radio stations delivered it live.
I was so impressed with your coverage, and I listened to you guys, and I got all the coverage. It was amazing.
Civic Media, the only network with news reporters and show hosts stationed across Wisconsin, sharing political insight not found anywhere else. Elections or anytime, we are here for you, your local Civic Media radio stations, and streaming on the Civic Media app.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am Hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Up North News Radio is Wisconsin's new choice for progressive talk about important state issues, from the team that brings you the news through social media, newsletters, and here on the radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Join me weekday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m.
Phones, social media, you've kept up with the times. If you can do that, you can definitely save for retirement. Go to aceyourretirement.org, and in just 3 minutes, you'll get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising, the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Thursday edition. That makes it Friday Eve up around here. I got to find co-devil for the day. He is Matt Rothschild. Call him Batman from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. But I promised you could be next on the phones. Line them up in the queue at 844-967-2789. Batman against my better judgment. We're starting with CJ today. Welcome back, CJ. What do you got for us? Oh, where's CJ? Off gallivanting. Lost your opportunity for the day, CJ. 844-967-2789. Karina. Welcome, Karina.
Hi, good evening. So
hey, how are you? Yes, ma'am.
Everything. Is racism actually legal or illegal in the United States?
I'm sorry. Is what illegal or illegal? What I didn't hear what the subject of the question was. Racism? In and of itself, racism is not illegal. But if you do something violent and it's motivated by racial hatred, that would be potentially a hate crime enhancer.
And discriminating against people on the basis of race is a violation of the 14th Amendment. So, having a racist attitude or expressing a racist belief in and of itself isn't criminal unless you're committing another crime, as Trudy said. But if you're discriminating against people on the basis of race, that's a racist activity that's illegal.
So how does it work with freedom of speech?
Well, you can say pretty awful stuff. You may incite someone with hate words. You could incite them to punch you in the nose, and they might have a defensible case, which normally it would be assault. You punch someone in the nose. Well, if I spewed a racial epithet and somebody punched me in the nose, that may be defendable from the
under fighting words doctrine. Yeah.
So I'm asking all these questions because of that action against Hispanic and African Americans, and advocating basically that you really okay sitting home and not to vote for your freedom, not to vote for your voice, not to let people know what you think. It's just fine because we're going to deliver your message. Don't worry about it. So how you can actually go after those people, because this is ridiculous that on the level of a government, it's the government level. If the government people sending refugees to a governor or a vice president home, then why we are so upset about not letting people into this country, or somebody talking about we don't need immigrants anymore, even the people who are the first generation who born here. And
Karina, I'm going to cut you short. I just want to see if we can kind of narrow it down a bit. Using race as a determinant, trying to suppress certain demographics of racial voters. Well, unfortunately, that's been happening since Jim Crow. That's been happening since the dawn of voting rights for African Americans at minimum. And I would say that in and of itself, if I put a campaign ad out there and I say, you know what, if it was so blatantly obvious, but they're not blatant. They're usually don't say, hey, if I was black, I'd stay home. What they usually say is, Democrats don't deliver. Democrats don't do this. Democrats don't do anything.
Yeah, what have the Democrats ever done for you? That was their pitch this year, I think.
Well, that in and of itself is a valid argument you could make. I might disagree with it. I might say, well, there's plenty of reasons for African Americans to get out and vote because these issues affect their lives. But it's up to the actual voters. I don't think it's a crime per se to put out messaging. And the fact that Bob Spindell is an elections commissioner and the fact that he's showing the partisan nature, I think that's far more problematic. I think the fact the guy might criminally have committed a crime as a fraudulent Trump elector and the fact that he's sitting on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, I think that's a far greater problem in this circumstance. But I would say if the Republicans, let's say, had elections inspectors that stood at Milwaukee at black polling places and tried to discourage people, intimidate people, well, certainly that may fall under the Voting Rights Act. There might be differing ways that would be a crime in and of itself. I'm not sure that that's what I heard explained in any of these emails. They weren't claiming that sort of direct confrontational stopping or discouraging people from voting so much as just putting those messages on the airwaves.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not sure you could make a Voting Rights Act claim or a 14th Amendment claim. You might be able to, but certainly if it wasn't illegal, it was tremendously immoral. And just so disreputable to be doing this. But again, this has been standard Republican playbook for generations. I just want to read one quote from 1980 from Paul Weyrich, who was one of the leaders of the Christian Coalition. Here he goes. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections aren't won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they're not now. As a matter of fact, and here's the kicker, our leverage in the election quite candidly goes up as the voting population goes down. And here, Robert Spindell was going after a specific part of the voting population, bragging about suppressing the vote of blacks and Latinos in Milwaukee. And I just don't see how this guy can remain on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, given that appalling brag.
Batman, our good friend Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, Batman, I can tell you, he's getting air support real time over on Vicki McKenna's show. Down the dial, Righty Whitey Talk Radio. They're saying circle the wagons. Hell, she's got Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. riding up, he's the posse riding to town in defense of Bob Spindell. Because Bob Spindell effectively is the voice of the craziest fringe of the Republican base, the MAGA base, the election denying base. But of course, the fact that this man that denies the outcome of the last election, that would be a fraudulent Trump elector, because Trump's lawyer said it was okay to do so, it's swell, and then go bragging as a Republican partisan CD chair, hey man, we knocked down these black voters. We found the effective messages that talked them out of voting this time.
Yeah, it wasn't like we convinced them to vote Republican. It's just we made it so ugly out there that they just decided not to cast their ballot. I mean, elections should be won in two ways. One, by getting your own base out, and two, by convincing a fraction of people who don't already agree with you that maybe your ideas are the best ideas. They're certainly better than the other guys. This third way, trying to make it so unpalatable for people even to vote, or erecting obstacles like getting rid of drop boxes or putting in voter ID to make it more difficult for people to vote, that's just reprehensible.
844-967-2789. Cassandra from Madison, say hi to my friend Matt.
Hi, am I on the air?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Well, you know what? I've been listening to the topic of today, and I just want to offer a little bit more information. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look at Roland Martin. He did an analysis on the Mandela Barnes race, and he investigated the turnout in Milwaukee, and where the voter turnout dropped dramatically was in what he called the Black political power corridor. In other words, these were the areas where there was the Black middle class. For some reason, and I'm still not understanding why, because I don't live in Milwaukee, the Black middle class did not show for Mandela Barnes. And if you have a chance, please YouTube that video and watch the results. Now, the Black middle class, these are people who have IDs. These are people who have a habit of voting, but for whatever reason, they just did not want to support Mandela Barnes. And so the story is a little bit more complicated than just voter suppression from whites. It's not to say that the Republican Party did not employ a strategy where they were trying to stop blacks from voting, but something went on in Milwaukee, and no one really wants to talk about why that Black middle class did not show up. And he showed the voting decline for that particular area from the 2018 midterms and the 2022 midterms. Now, Mandela Barnes, I did vote for him, but to be honest with you, I don't believe he was the strongest candidate. In many ways, he really wasn't ready for this to make this run. I think he should have stayed lieutenant governor, and he should have required a stronger political resume.
Cassandra, do you think, as the lieutenant governor in 2018, he was obviously the sidekick to Tony Evers at the top of the ballot, and
right.
He was on the ballot that received that higher turnout in 2018. I think there were a lot of times they did funny jokes about, age averaging Tony Evers and Mandela Barnes' age, and they're about 45 collectively. There were lots of things, but a lot of the time, Tony would come out, he'd say, "Hi, and here's my friend Mandela Barnes," and Mandela would give the more dynamic speech. Mandela would be the front man, the pitch man on behalf of the campaign team. Cassandra, understand the 2018 turnout had the same candidate.
Well, you know what? The issues for 2018 and 2022, they were very different. In 2022, people were dealing with an inflation. There were economic issues that people were primarily concerned with. And you know what? If you think about Mandela Barnes's race and his key campaign message, it was, "I am the parent of a teacher," and his father being something else.
Working
but there
third
was
shift.
really nothing more. What's that?
Oh, just talking about his parents' resume. Matt, his dad worked third shift at the plant.
Didn't everybody? I hear you, Cassandra, but let me just say a couple things. One, getting rid of drop boxes hurt turnout in Milwaukee. Number two, the stuff that Bob Spendel's bragging about, these ads that they ran on black radio in Milwaukee may have had an impact as well. I also think Mandela's own ads were not effective. That peanut butter and jelly ad wasn't good. That ad where he's bringing pizzas into the classroom didn't change anybody's mind. So I think there is a lot to go around there. But to have a guy who's an official in Wisconsin on, of all things, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, boasting to fellow Republicans about how great it was we suppressed Black and Latino votes in Milwaukee, that is something that just sticks in my throat.
Well, you know what? You all should not be surprised that this was their tactic.
No, I'm not surprised.
That's all I'm saying. But I will get off the air. I'm sure there are other callers, but I'm enjoying the show.
Well, Cassandra, we appreciate you listening. Thanks for being a part.
I mean, the fact that, no one should have been surprised. The Mandela Barnes campaign shouldn't be surprised about the racist ad that came from Ron Johnson or from Diane Hendricks and Richard Eline. That was another thing that annoyed me about their campaign. They were caught flat-footed when they shouldn't have been caught flat-footed.
I wonder if Mandela Barnes was not the candidate of white progressives. I mean, Mandela lost to Lena Taylor in Milwaukee when he tried to run for state senate. Didn't win the primary. Lost to probably... Lena's got her own pluses and minuses.
But that was a suicide race on Mandela Barnes' part. I don't know why he did it. I've seen Lena Taylor perform in the Capitol. That woman is tough, and she's tough right in the face of Republican elected officials and won't let him get away with anything. And I didn't see how he was going to win that race from Jump Street.
And he did not. Come back with us, Devil's Advocates. You're always a winner when you listen, and join us on the phones, 844-96-PARTY.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
The conservative dating app, The Right Stuff, is failing 3 months after launch. In October, the app, The Right Stuff, had just 11,000 downloads.
The profile creation process also asks users to list their thoughts about the January 6th Capitol riots. Two reviewers claimed that FBI and police officers visited their homes after filling out their profiles.
The political party that is the Devil's Advocates radio show, live weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Overcast tonight with a chance for mixed precipitation changing to all snow. Lows around 24. North winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Daytime highs approaching 31. Tomorrow, a blend of clouds and sun. Mainly clear skies tomorrow night. Lows level off around 16. Upper 30s Saturday, mid 40s Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Matt Rothschild, co-Devlin all day long. You can be a part as well. 844-967-2789. Been discussing a Wisconsin Republican appointee to the Elections Commission. I take great umbrage with the fact that he was a fraudulent Trump elector and should be criminally charged. But most of the topic today has been about the fact that he bragged to the 4th CD, where he is the 4th CD Republican chair, bragged to the people he sent an email to. He's been suppressing the vote. And by suppressing the vote specifically, they claimed that they had targeted African Americans and Latino in the Milwaukee area and had convinced them to stay home. In numerically significant numbers, 37,000 in a race that saw Ron Johnson only get reelected by about 27,000 votes. Well, here's a similar headline. I'm throwing this one at you, Matt. You see, the reports are back. The research is back about the Russian bots and their influence on the 2016 campaign. And obviously, there was an effort, what they call them, Russian troll farms. They were making a concerted effort to utilize misinformation, disinformation, and change the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. And if we understand properly, primarily, they were targeting Hillary Clinton. Now, if I recall correctly, there were actually, in regards to the Red Arrow Park, some of the unrest that happened in the Milwaukee area, there were tweets being sent out by this Russian troll farm targeting specifically Milwaukee, trying to create more chaos in the area. But Matt, I think you pulled it up. It wasn't a big deal. Ultimately, the troll farms weren't a big deal. They didn't change the outcomes.
You know, I always was skeptical of the claim. I knew the Russians were trying to influence it, but there was so much going on, so much traffic on social media, so many talking heads on TV, that it seemed an implausible claim that the Russians tipped the balance for Trump. It always seemed to me that, James Comey had more of an influence defeating Hillary Clinton than the Russians did. James Comey, by coming out just a few days before the election saying we're going to reinvestigate Hillary Clinton, which was an outrageous thing to do and against Justice Department policy. And of course, I also think Hillary Clinton owns some responsibility for running a bad campaign, for not coming to Wisconsin, for having a bad slogan like "It's her turn" or "her time" or whatever the hell that was.
I'm with her.
I'm with her. I mean,
do you know? Literally, I did not know. Like, I didn't know the Hillary Clinton bumper stickers during the 2016 elective cycle. I'm like, I thought they were just generic Democratic Party stickers. I didn't even know that was meant to represent her candidacy.
I mean, it's the opposite of what a slogan should do and what a politician who's running for office should do, which is to tell the voter what you're going to do for the voter. And so, I understand where she was coming from, and it was appealing to feminists out there. I get that, but it wasn't appealing to the wider audience. And she needed to get to Wisconsin. She couldn't find Wisconsin with, GPS and a map.
No,
flashlight.
I'm not here to defend the campaign team of Hillary Clinton because I took a little umbrage in real time. But she did come to the state of Wisconsin twice earlier before she won the primary because I broadcasted. I was at UW Milwaukee in the room when Hillary Clinton broadcasted. A little interesting story, man. She had this podium. They had American flags. And before she came to the podium, they had moved her inside from outside. The flag goes crashing into the podium. It would have split her head wide open. I mean, anyone standing at that podium, and she was the next speaker. Oof. So this was after they'd cleared all the the preliminaries.
Who did the advance work there?
This was supposed to be an outdoor event. They moved it indoors. Like, they jammed way more people in the UWM, 4,000 in a room that probably fit two. I mean, we were in the press pen. They were letting people in the press pen. I stood on a chair so visually I could see the candidate during the course of our broadcast. But anyways, she was there, and then she was on campus here in Madison, met Dave Weigel from the Washington Post that day. He joined us on the air, but it was an intimate little gathering of like 250 on campus.
How'd she do there?
She was fine. It was about a 25 minute speech. Now, I saw Hillary Clinton out in South Central LA the day of the California primary, and people had been waiting at 8:00 in the morning. We hit the air at about 1:00 Pacific time, about 3:00 Central time at that time. And people had been waiting that whole time. She came to the stage about an hour later, did a solid 8 minutes and left. 8 minutes in the sun for 8 minutes of Hillary.
And how was her talk? Was it okay? I know it's short.
This
isn't a lot for people who are waiting for 6 hours, but
it was brief. I can tell you this, and it seemed unbelievable to so many of our Hillary Clinton supportive friends. And I had David Poof, whatever the guy's name is, he was on my show a week before the election. What do you think the numbers are? 100% ironclad guarantee Hillary Clinton's the next president. That's what he's telling people. And I think in no small part, that sort of certainty gave license to those that would stray and vote for a Jill Stein or say, you know what, I didn't like the way it all played out. Now, I voted for Hillary Clinton that year, but I believed when the electoral results came down that night, I believed it. And there are so many people, as much as we blame the Trump people, it was rigged. Well, Hillary Clinton wasn't out there telling her supporters it was rigged, but she did certainly bemoan the Comey and the different aspects of the electoral cycle. And there have been many Hillary supportive that has said, I just don't believe Hillary lost. It must have been the Russian troll bots, et cetera, et cetera.
No, it wasn't. And also, where was she in the last 10 days of the election? I remember seeing her going down to Texas and going down to Arizona, and we needed her here. And I also remember, Michael Moore saying, look, Trump can win this thing. And that's because he's in Michigan and he drives around in Michigan. And I was driving around in Wisconsin, and you could leave Dane County and drive to Sheboygan. And once you got out of Dane County, you were not seeing any Hillary signs. All you saw were Trump signs. And again, you could drive up to anywhere, Wausau, you could, drive to La Crosse and Eau Claire, the same thing. And so anyone who got outside of Dane County knew that, wow, there's a lot of popularity for Trump out there. And she wasn't connecting with people here because she said, yeah, the economy's okay. Let's keep going. And for a lot of people, the economy stank.
I can tell you this. Hillary had the best surrogates. I mean, we got everyone from General Wesley Clark to, hell, they'd offer us Hollywood actors. Hey, Hillary's not coming, but she's got the best, coolest friends. Cory Booker. We got so many great guests care of the Hillary campaign. But we really want the candidate. I just wanted to hear her come on the show and say, please vote for me. Bernie Sanders, literally the day of the primary, 2016, state of Wisconsin, I think it was early April. Bernie said, please vote for me. Bernie crushed it. Bernie won the state in the primary by double digits. Donald Trump got beat by double digits. Donald Trump came back to the state of Wisconsin. Barnstorm did about 6 campaign stump stops in the last 2 months, and he won.
And Bernie came here and urged people to vote for Hillary too.
He did. Come back, more Devils.
It's not a close call. Those were lies, plain and simple. It's a close call.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Do you have flex or health savings account money available? The team at Ula Eyewear would love to help you put those dollars towards something stylish, useful, and fun. Ula Eyewear has been family-owned and operated for nearly 25 years. Ula prides itself on pairing excellent customer service with unique, quality, and eye-catching eyewear options for everyone. So invest in you and the eyewear you want by visiting Ula Eyewear today at Hilldale Shopping Center in Madison. Learn more about their selection and reframed initiative at ulaeyewear.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed former U.S. Attorney Robert Hur as special counsel to lead an investigation into Biden classified documents. Attorneys for President Biden alerted the Justice Department that they found a second batch of documents at the president's Delaware home. ABC's Pierre Thomas says the probe will include interviews on how the documents ended up there at an office used when he left office as vice president.
These were classified documents. They were not where they were supposed to be. These documents are supposed to be stored in very specific kinds of locations with stringent guidelines. They were not where they were supposed to be. And they were not where they were supposed to be for more than 6 years.
A separate special prosecutor is overseeing the investigation into classified documents retrieved from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The CDC says the pandemic has had a negative effect on routine childhood immunizations. Fewer kids are being vaccinated against preventable diseases like measles. This is ABC News. The mayor of Selma, Alabama, says a tornado ripped through the city, causing significant damage. Ricky Adams is the director of field operations for the Alabama Emergency Management Agency.
Down trees, power lines, and debris, which makes the passing through that area very difficult. We have reports of injuries. However, at this point, there are no reports of any fatalities.
The volatile line of storms and the threat of tornadoes is still active and now pushing into Georgia.
You need to seek shelter now.
That was the message by WSB-TV Chief Meteorologist Brad Nitz as heavy winds hit Atlanta. Storm warnings and watches stretch into the Carolinas. An iconic piece of Kobe Bryant memorabilia is hitting the auction block. Sotheby's is listing a jersey he wore during his 2007-2008 MVP season. The auction house says it expects the jersey to sell somewhere between $5 and $7 million. It's expected to be the most valuable piece of memorabilia from Bryant ever sold at auction. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Miss your favorite show? Find our entire podcast library at devilradio927.com.
I find your lack of Devil Radio 92.7 disturbing. Do not fail me again.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. A man from Kenosha accused of poisoning his wife in 1998 is on trial for a second time. Mark Jensen was convicted of murder, but in 2021, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ordered a new trial. A key piece of evidence in the first trial was a letter Julie Jensen wrote. It said if anything happened to her, police should assume her husband did it. That letter will not be admissible in this trial. The U.S. House is creating a new select committee on strategic competition between the United States and China. Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mark Gallagher has been pushing for such a committee. It will look into China's economic, technological, and security advancements. It will also examine competition with the United States. In sports, the Bucks beat Atlanta last night 114-105. Marquette beat UConn last night 82-76. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN, 1580 AM.
It's a new year, and because we're excited about our new and still growing Civic Media network of radio stations, it's time to do something really big. How does $1 million advertising giveaway sound to you? Our celebration is your chance to work with Civic Media's amazing sales team, creating a radio advertising campaign promoting your business for free. Save the date. The $1 million advertising giveaway is only happening on Thursday, January 26th. Full details on our website, civicmedia.us/million.
At Chad's Design Build, we care deeply about the quality of the services that we provide to our clients. An excellent remodeling experience requires communication, honesty, accuracy, and a detailed plan, all of which helps to create a satisfied client. And these commitments spell our name. To learn more about the Chad's remodeling experience, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. Building a better world, one remodeled home at a time, and celebrating 30 years of excellence.
Hey, Tom Hartman here. Join me on Devil Radio every Monday through Friday for the Tom Hartman program on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Tune in for the news of the day, share your opinion on the topics we discuss, and join the lively debate with me and my guests each weekday from 11 to 2 on the Tom Hartman program. Only on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Wisconsin's home for progressive news and talk radio. Tag You're It.
This local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio, VO5.
Let's do it on the dance floor. Let's do it how we can. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
I'm looking at the phone lines. I'm seeing some familiar faces. What's in mind of Gene of Eau Claire?
Well, welcome back, Matt. I really missed you. We've been missing getting woke every morning, but now we'll get woke in the afternoon.
What's in mind of Andrew of Detroit?
Professor, it's so nice you're back. We missed you during your vacation, and I'm very happy to be in your class for the semester.
Thanks a lot for calling in. I appreciate all my callers.
Tune in to Matt Flynn Direct, Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 p.m.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom traveling. I got to find Code Devil. He is Batman. He is Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, friend of ours. Matt, again, appreciate you coming around today, man.
It's great to be in the studio with you, Crudy, as always.
Well, I want to turn our attention to the current president and his paperwork crimes, potential paperwork crimes. Now, I'm glad I didn't go overboard with the whole Mar-a-Lago thing. You know, Dom's ready to prosecute. Well, it gets harder and harder every day when the current president, when the guy on our team, my team, has got his own little paperwork crimes issue, or at least, you know, misappropriated classified documents. Some are at the think tank, but the newest, Matt, they're at the house in Delaware in the freaking garage.
Some are in the garage. Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing for Joe Biden, and it does complicate and muddy the case against Trump against Mar-a-Lago. I know there's a lot of differences you can draw. Trump, hid them, wouldn't return them when Archives was demanding them, when Justice Department was demanding them, and the Biden folks somehow discovered them and evidently voluntarily coughed them up. So there are distinctions to draw, but still, I'm totally in your camp on the big crime. The big crime is seditious conspiracy. The big crime is election tampering. The big crime is trying to overthrow our democracy. The big crime is the false electors. The big crime is galvanizing this crowd that wanted to hang the vice president. I mean, there is so much evidence that the January 6th committee sent over to the Justice Department that the Justice Department should quickly indict Donald Trump on that stuff. I've always cared more about the assault on our democracy than the question about what Trump was doing with these stolen documents down in Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I haven't cared a lot about them. It's not that I don't think Trump was committing crimes, because I think he was. I think he was obstructing. I think he was misleading. I think he had to finally be subpoenaed and search warranted before he provided, 325 different individual classified documents back. But we don't know how many documents Joe Biden has, and we can assume or presume, better motive because he's our guy. But it looks really bad.
Yeah,
and
the optics are terrible. And also, getting Trump on the stolen documents, unless he was, doing something really nefarious with them, like trying to sell them to the highest bidder or giving them to an enemy, it's like getting Al Capone on the taxes. I mean, let's get Al Capone on the murders. Let's get Trump on seditious conspiracy.
Well, and even the negligent way that we had seen it represented through the reporting, Donald Trump's got him in an uncontrolled room at this resort Mar-a-Lago, and people could have just gone in the room and accessed classified documents. Well, I have a hard time arguing for the, secure soundness of Joe Biden's garage. You leave the garage door open, some raccoons reading that thing one night.
Yeah, it's just, it raises questions about, again, is Joe the guy to run again? I mean, if he's got this going on too. And I think that is going to resurface quickly. I mean, after the November elections, it looked like Biden, if he declares, is going to clear the Democratic field. I think with this, people are going to be thinking twice or three times about maybe they should jump in.
Matt, if I could, I'm going to introduce the headline at the top of the Washington Post Digital at this time. Garland appoints special counsel to probe Biden classified documents. Now, we've got some sound of the Attorney General. Going to need your help here in a minute, E-Bone. And if you've got a opinion about this or any other topic, political or, political adjacent, call us at 844-967-2789. A little of this reporting, Perry Stein, Devlin Barrett, and Matt Pfizer at the Washington Post. Now, Matt, the sub-headline is Robert K. Hur is a former U.S. attorney from Maryland who served as a senior official in President Donald Trump's Justice Department.
I mean, he also clerked for William Rehnquist, so that gives you an idea of his ideological predisposition.
Well, hopefully the Foxy News sorts, the right-wing, righty-whitey talk radio sorts cannot call this special counsel some sort of partisan there to give cover to Joe Biden. But anyways, let's get started. Attorney General Merrick Garland, citing what he called extraordinary circumstances, appointed a special counsel today to investigate the handling of classified documents found at a former office and the Delaware home of President Biden, ratcheting up legal stakes and potential political consequences of national security cases ensnaring both the current president and his predecessor. My guy is just as bad as your guy. I don't think that's entirely true, but at least the headlines are bad.
And that's what they're playing up on Foxy News, which I watched for about an hour this morning.
And if you are the partisan press, as Fox News clearly is, hell, man, this is a victory for them today. Joe, this was an unforced error. Let me read on. The nation's top law enforcement official made the announcement Thursday, tapping Robert K. Hur, a former U.S. attorney in Maryland, who served as a senior Justice Department official during the Trump administration. Garland's decision could ultimately redefine the relationship between Biden and the Attorney General. He chose to run the Justice Department as an independent arm of the government. It also means that for some indefinite period of time, the two potential rivals for the White House in 2024 will each proceed towards that race under the shadow of criminal investigations.
That's why I think, a lot of people across the country are saying, can't we get two better candidates than these two guys?
Speaking to reporters at the Justice Department headquarters, Garland provided new details on the timing and the progress of the Biden documents investigation, noting that on January 5th, the first prosecutor he'd assigned to review the matter recommended that a special counsel take up the case. Hur will examine whether, and this is a quote, any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. We've got some of the sound. I'm better at calling for sound than reading alouding. So let's actually hear Merrick Garland's words. Need your help here, E-Bone, if we could. Let's go with AG Merrick Garland on the Biden docs. Cut number 10, special counsel.
I'm here today to announce the appointment of Robert Hur as a special counsel pursuant to Department of Justice regulations governing such matters.
Now, if I was a Trumpster, I'd be pointing out, you can't prosecute the president, it's a sitting president. But anyways, we aren't there yet. More from AG Merrick Garland, cut number 11, confident.
I am confident that Mr. Hur will carry out his responsibility in an even-handed and urgent manner and in accordance with the highest traditions of this department.
And I almost feel like I've heard some of the script before when Merrick Garland was addressing the paperwork issue and the appointment of a special counsel for Donald Trump, but be guided by facts and law. Cut 12.
This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
Well, I would hope, Matt, that that's what the Attorney General would say, rolling out a special counsel against a sitting president and making statements of these sorts. You better say that, right? At minimum.
Sounds like he had a cold, too, don't you think? I mean, he didn't sound very good there, Merrick Garland. I saw it live, and it looked like, wow, man, this guy's not doing well. But what has taken him so long when he says we're just going to consider the facts and the law here? What's taking him so long to get to Trump in that indictment? In my opinion, he didn't even need to appoint Jack Smith. He could have done it himself. I mean, this whole thing has just been so long and drawn out. I'm not a big Merrick Garland fan, in case you had noticed.
Perhaps not for our sake, Matt, but AG Merrick Garland, cut number 13 here, E-Bone, assures those that care a lot that the proper resources will be allocated. Cut 13.
I will ensure that Mr. Herr receives all the resources he needs to conduct his work.
Well, thank you. More from AG Merrick Garland. Cut 14, please.
The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. The special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, but he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department.
And this is just going to be a nightmare for Joe Biden. You know, you get a special prosecutor there with endless amount of resources, and he's just going to go to town.
And why did the Attorney General feel he must get out in front of this so rapidly? Well, perhaps it's because they found more documents at the president's personal residence in Delaware in the garage.
I'm looking at a picture of the garage here at WashingtonPost.com and of the Biden Corvette.
Cut 15, please.
This morning, President Biden's personal counsel called Mr. Lausch and stated that an additional document bearing classification markings was identified at the president's personal residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
I mean, how sloppy is that? I'm sorry. I mean, this is just so frustrating to see this unforced error, as you called it. I mean, it's a huge unforced error. This is double faulting at game, set, match point.
For the love of God, Joe, don't have classified documents in the garage with your Corvette, dude. More from Merrick Garland. Cut number 16, please.
Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
More from AG Garland. Cut 17, please.
On January 5th, 2023, Mr. Lausch briefed me on the results of his initial investigation and advised me that further investigation by a special counsel was warranted.
And one more. Let's wrap up with AG Garland and the Biden docs. Additional docs in the garage. Cut 18.
On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
You know, I've never been privy to classified documents, but if I were, I wouldn't take them home and read them, and throw them in the garage.
And how did they discover them? Were Joe and Jill doing a garage cleanup and a sale on the sidewalk on Saturday morning, and they found these things?
Well, apparently they had legal counsel doing the rummage sale pre-clean for them. Come back, more Devil's Advocates, me and Batman, and you on the phones.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
My finest, Maggie Dawn, attorney at law. I thought that the laws of the United States were supposed to evolve with societal norms. The vast majority of Americans, 70% approximately, believe that Roe v. Wade should be the law of the land. So that seems exactly contrary to the way the courts are supposed to evolve with our nation.
I'll just say this. The guy in Colorado can't be forced to make a gay wedding cake, but I can be forced to make a baby. I don't know about you, but that makes no damn sense to me.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Telling my girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard.
But Mom's early detection gave us time to make a plan.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Weather brought to you by the Joint Chiropractic. Through January 14th, you can buy a 10-month wellness plan and get 2 free months. Visit us today at our 4 Madison area locations. No appointment needed. Open evenings and weekends. The Joint Chiropractic.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Overcast tonight with a chance for mixed precipitation changing to all snow. Lows around 24. North winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Daytime highs approaching 31. Tomorrow, a blend of clouds and sun. Mainly clear skies tomorrow night. Lows level off around 16. Upper 30s Saturday, mid 40s Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Hour. Plenty of time for your calls right up in here. They're free at 844-967-2789. We're going to go to the lines. Make sure you say hi to my friend, Batman. He is Matt Rothschild. He's co-deviling with me from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, where he serves as executive director and super cool guy. Dana from Madison. Welcome, Dana. What do you got for us?
Hey, good afternoon, Mike.
Thanks,
and
Dana.
pleasure to talk with you as well. I've been listening to you, follow you for a long time. I do admire your work.
Oh, thanks, Dana.
Say, I heard a theory today on one of your earlier shows on your network today, and what I heard was the papers for Joe Biden were found with funeral papers for his son, like they got mixed up in with those. And
I'm going to cut you off, my friend. No one from Joe Biden's office is trying to make these claims. So there might be plenty of Democratic supportive people that are saying, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. Well, if that were the case, Joe Biden and his crack team would be denying. I mean, that's the whole Trump game plan. They're not. They're acknowledging what they're calling earlier today a mistake of classified documents, not just at the think tank, but also at the private Delaware residence in the garage. So, Dana, nobody stuck them there. Joe Biden put them there.
But I think Dana was trying to say, it's just a mix-up of documents that were official documents with, really personal stuff, including stuff relating to the funeral of his son. But still, it just tells me that it's just sloppy. It's so sloppy. How in this day and age, especially with everything that's been going down in Mar-a-Lago, are you still in possession of these documents? And how were these documents found? This is a real question in my mind. And I think it's going to be tricky for Biden, tricky for the Democrats to try to distinguish this from Mar-a-Lago, even though I totally get that there are differences, that the Justice Department and the archives were demanding it, and Trump was denying that he had him and stiff-arming him and maybe, obstructing justice at the same time. It doesn't seem like the Biden folks have done that, but we don't have all the details right now. And for most people in this country, it's just like Biden did it, Trump did it, they all did it. Can't prosecute Trump on this stuff. So it's going to be hard for Jack Smith to go after Trump on Mar-a-Lago, even though that seemed to be, before this happened, to be the easiest way to get a conviction. But I've always been of the mind that the real thing that Trump needs to be convicted of, if we are going to keep our democracy, is the stuff about seditious conspiracy and tampering with the elections.
Absolutely. President Joe Biden, our guy, clashed with Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy today at the White House after he said that a small number of classified documents had been found at Biden's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. The documents were reportedly found in the garage. Here's what Doocy said. Classified materials next to your Corvette? What were you thinking? That's actually a valid question. Rarely does Doocy ask a valid question. That is a valid question.
Well, how did Biden respond?
Biden responded, my Corvette's in a locked garage, so it's not like it's sitting on the street. Oof. So the material was in a locked garage, Doocy pressed? Yes, as well as my Corvette, Biden said.
Not great answers.
Biden said he was fully cooperating fully with the Justice Department review after classified documents were found at his private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. Lawyers, and here's a quote, discovered a small number of documents with classified markings in a storage area and file cabinets in my home and my personal library, Biden said, adding, I take classified documents and classified material seriously. Apparently so seriously, he takes them home and puts them next to his garage, or next to the Corvette in the garage. But it's a locked garage. Be reassured. It's locked all night long.
It's It's such a headache for Democrats. I mean, think, put yourself right now in the shoes of the head of the Democratic National Committee. I mean, you're just saying we came off this election. We did so much better than we did before.
I haven't even seen Jamie Harrison in 2 years, man. Is there a DNC chair?
I don't know.
At least the last guy was active. Tom Perez at least would go around, do lefty radio and such. I haven't heard from the DNC in since before the midterms.
I mean, it's a huge headache for anyone in the Democratic Party. Ben Wickler in Wisconsin, who runs the Democratic Party, has done a great job. I can't believe he's enjoying this headline today.
844-967-2789. Hopefully you're enjoying the Devil's Advocates. Your call could be a part, like David from Mequon. Welcome back, David. Happy New Year.
Hey, Steve, you. Really quickly, I guess my question is this. It's been sitting around for 6 years, because that's when he was vice president. So, who transported it, and how is it that nobody knew that this was missing for all these years? I don't understand that at all. That's what I don't understand.
Well, I think they're valid questions, David. Who transported it? I would assume it was the then Vice President Joe Biden taking documents home for review, for consideration, for whatever. But it's pretty damn loosey-goosey when you got them after you leave office.
And what is in their mind, either in Trump's mind or Biden's? It's not like taking a few pens and paper clips and yellow legal pads home. I mean, what are they doing with it?
Oh, does that one say Devil Radio on it? I hadn't noticed. I took a couple of notepads from the office.
I mean, I got a few office pens at home, I got to confess, but come on now.
Few that say the Progressive, do you, Matt?
Progressive, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. I mean, I got to unload those at some point.
Well, we'll unload the phones. We'll take more of your calls. 844-967-2789. And I would assume David's probably right. I mean, this isn't a recent thing. Joe Biden wouldn't have had access to these. This was pre-presidential run documents that he had at the House.
It's just a real head scratcher. I just can't believe it.
And the timing, horrible. I don't know if we said this on air, but the timing. He found out, apparently, the lawyers found out 3 days before the midterms.
Yeah, Fox is going to town on that.
I don't blame him for not going out and saying, hey, we found some classified documents at the VP's house 3 days before the midterms. But it took 3 months to find out. Couple. More Devils. Come back.
The whole world gone crazy! Am I the only one around here who gives a about the rules?
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive news talk from Black Earth to Columbus. Always streaming at DARNWI.com.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed former U.S. Attorney Robert Hur as special counsel to lead an investigation into Biden classified documents. Attorneys for President Biden alerted the Justice Department that they found a second batch of documents at the president's Delaware home. ABC's Pierre Thomas says the probe will include interviews on how the documents ended up there at an office used when he left office as vice president.
These were classified documents. They were not where they were supposed to be. These documents are supposed to be stored in very specific kinds of locations with stringent guidelines. They were not where they were supposed to be. And they were not where they were supposed to be for more than 6 years.
A separate special prosecutor is overseeing the investigation into classified documents retrieved from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The CDC says the pandemic has had a negative effect on routine childhood immunizations. Fewer kids are being vaccinated against preventable diseases like measles. This is ABC News.
You've merely made radio your ally. I was born on the radio. Devil Radio, 92.7.
This is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News and our new early morning program heard right here on weekday mornings, Up North News Radio. We're a small but scrappy state-based newsroom that covers politics and policy, but also other stories that show off our state, its people, places, food, and much more. You can find all of that on our website, upnorthnewswi.com, or on your favorite social media site. Just search for Up North News WI. Don't forget the WI, and give us a follow. Then, from 6 to 8 a.m., we talk about those stories and much more right here on the statewide radio stations of Civic Media. We have guests, analysis, commentary. We talk music, sports, weather, and probably a few too many anecdotes about my time as a TV anchor, a state legislator, an island dweller, and now a grandpa. It's real information and good conversation that's unabashedly Wisconsin. That's Up North News Radio, weekday mornings from 6 to 8, on the radio, online, and on demand.
You wanted information as election results rolled in, and the Civic Media network of radio stations delivered it live.
I was so impressed with your coverage, and I listened to you guys, and I got all the coverage. It was amazing.
Civic Media, the only network with news reporters and show hosts stationed across Wisconsin, sharing political insight not found anywhere else. Elections or anytime, we are here for you. Your local Civic Media radio stations and streaming on the Civic Media app.
Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate brokers so concerned about the environment?
True, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yeah, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my solar panels to charge my plug-in.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Check them out at solidarityrealty.com.
Looking for a new pair of glasses? Ula Eyewear has you covered. As one of Madison's only local, independent, and family-owned eyewear stores, Ula has been connecting people with fun, unique, and stylish frames for nearly 25 years. With glasses, readers, and sunglasses for customers of all ages, you'll find a variety of frames to fit your style and price points to fit your lifestyle. So don't wait. Head to Ula Eyewear now at Hilldale Shopping Center and find your pair of glasses. Ula Eyewear, uniquely you.
This is Pat Greitlow from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news, sports, and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Thursday Happier Happy Hour. Happy and happier all the time because the weekend's coming, but we ain't done yet. I got a fine co-devil taking us all the way home. Just hang on and listen. He's Matt Rothschild. He's Batman from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and we're taking your calls all the way up to 6 o'clock Central at 844-967-2789, but be patient, man. I know I found one. You got one. Here's the headline that caught my attention. Unfair savage. Trump explodes over special counsel Jack Smith. Let's not forget the former president, also under current criminal investigation for a number of issues. But Donald Trump raged against special counsel Jack Smith and President Joe Biden in a series of Thursday morning posts on his Truthy social website. The former president accused Smith, that's Trump, the former, a Department of Justice veteran who recently returned to the U.S. from Europe, where he had prosecuted cases for The Hague, of targeting him for political reasons after he was tapped by Attorney General Merrick Garland to oversee the Trump-related investigations after the former president entered the 2024 campaign. So here's what Trumpy's saying on the Truthy social. The special prosecutor assigned to the Get Trump case, Jack Smith, is a Trump-hating thug whose wife is a serial and open Trump hater, whose friends and other family members are even worse. And as a prosecutor in Europe, according to Rick Riddell, put a high government official in prison because he was a Trump-positive person. Trump posted, Smith is known as an unfair savage and is best friends with the craziest Trump haters, including Lisa Monaco, who runs Injustice. The Boxes scam is a hoax. Now, one of the investigations involving the FBI seizure of classified materials found at Trump's private residence that had been sought for return by the National Archives, which the ex-president has then demanded to be given back to him. First, didn't he claim they were planted? And then he wanted his documents back, Matt.
He likes to have it both ways.
So I'll stop doing the Trump voice because no one really likes that, but here's a little bit. For 7 years, this again, a Trump quote though, For 7 years, from the day I came down the escalator in the Trump Tower, the Democrat Party has weaponized, all caps there, the
What's
legal
with the all
system.
caps, by the way? Why does he use those all the time?
Sort of for emphasis, because 3, 4 exclamation points just don't always get it done. Weaponize the legal system using city, state, and federal law enforcement against me and the Republican Party as though they were a private protection agency, Trump complained. The greatest witch hunt in American history must end now. I beat the fake impeachments, the disgraceful Mueller prosecution, and much else that the fake news doesn't want to write or talk about. But this charade, all caps, must stop now. 3 exclamation points. He doubled up there, man. Now, House Republicans are launching their own investigations into Trump-era probes, including the January 6th insurrection. But the former president called for all ongoing cases against him to be ended and Smith fired. I'll wrap it up with Trump's, truthy social missive. Fire a man who may very well turn out to be a criminal, Jack Smith. Why is he a criminal? You're the criminal.
Criminal and a thug. I mean, I wouldn't be calling the guy who's trying to investigate me a criminal or a thug.
The guy with the reputation as being a savage. That's the guy you want to call a criminal and a thug. His conflicts, unfairness, and mental state of derangement make him totally unfit for the job of, and here are the quotes, getting Trump. Go after Biden and the Biden crime family instead. Like Bill Barr, the U.S. attorneys in Delaware and Illinois are weak, ineffective, and afraid to do what must be done. The election, back to the election, was, all caps, rigged. And we're now losing our country. We can't let that happen. And then the obligatory, all caps, make America great again.
The guy is just, his narcissism just knows no end. And in the clinical psychology books coming out in the next edition under pathological narcissist, Donald Trump's face.
I think he's got to be feeling some pressure, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's happy about the Biden papers, but he can't be happy about Jack Smith and going after him for these January 6 crimes, which I'm hoping Jack Smith comes down with an indictment sometime in the next month. What is taking those guys so long? And how are they going to get a conviction before election time? I mean, they need to do something. If Trump's reelected,
do it now.
Trump's reelected, he's going to pardon himself. Yeah, for sure.
844-967-2789. Let's go to the phones and the patient Wisco Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, good afternoon, Matt and Crudy. I'm not a fan of Merrick Garland either, Matt. I mean, he looks kind of weak, but he's kind of small. He should have been further into this Trump thing than he is. But that being said, this is a bad look for Biden. No matter how you say it, it's just a bad look. You're leaving classified documents for what, 6 years at least, and in your Corvette and on and on. But it gives Trump something to talk about, and the real subject should be January 6th, the insurrection trying to overthrow the government. That's too bad. And I kind of hope, I think Biden's done a real good job, Cody and Matt, turning the country around. He's passed a lot of good bills, infrastructure and soft infrastructure and other things. But I'm hoping somebody younger runs this next time up.
Who do you like, Paul? Who would you like? Who would you like to see run?
I like the governor from Michigan a lot. I really do.
Big Gretchen Whitmer?
I think she's really. I think she'd make a good candidate. So I think she should possibly be the first woman president, in fact. But that's just my opinion, and So, well, anyway, nice show today, gentlemen, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Paul.
I totally agree with Paul about this being a bad look for Biden. And I also agree on Garland. Why is it taking him 2 years? I mean, there's been evidence out here for a long time with the false electors, with just give me 11,780 votes. I mean, how much more do you really need?
Well, the Fulton County District Attorney, Fannie Willis, I believe her name, they've wrapped up that grand jury. There will be a hearing on January 24th, my understanding, Matt. And at that time, they will decide whether or not the investigatory grand jury findings will be made public. Now, that grand jury, like 26 members, by majority, my understanding is they want their findings to be made public. But I would wonder if there are criminal indictments being recommended in these findings, and we don't know yet. We will find out in a couple of weeks. But if they're recommending criminal indictments, will they also make public disclosure? Or will that all be held back for trial?
And I suspect they will be recommending indictments, and that there will be indictments coming. And Georgia's going to, she's going to beat Merrick Garland to the punch here and Jack Smith to the punch here. But they both have punches to throw. And Jack Smith and Garland, they've got to get on the stick here and indict Trump for the crimes that he committed on January 6th and lead up to January 6th. But, my hat's off to the Georgia prosecutors for convening that grand jury and finishing up with that grand jury. And I expect indictments to come down soon there.
Well, I suspect there are more guilty parties, at least alleged guilty parties, than Donald Trump. It could be Lindsey Graham, U.S. Senator. Could be Mark Meadows, the chief of staff. There are others that were involved in the pressure campaign against Georgia election officials. And Matt, we've talked about this, maybe not with you on recently, but Dom and I have talked a lot about the fact, there's hardly ever a Perry Mason style smoking gun. And E-Bone, go look it up. The 11,780 votes, man. I mean, there is a smoking gun. We have all heard the tape, man. We know there is a smoking gun. There's criminality on the tape.
How much more do you need to get an indictment than that? Right out of the guy's mouth.
Well, so often, when a prosecutor has to make a case, they're moving incrementally, they're glacially, they're detail after detail, piling on the details until the full weight of every straw breaks the camel's back. But when you got something like this,
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Which is one more than he would have needed. Thank you for your fine work, E-Bone.
I mean, that is the smoking gun. I mean, this is the crime itself being confessed to by the criminal. And it really shouldn't take 2 years to get an indictment.
And the craziest thing is this tape that we're hearing happened like 48 hours before the January 6th insurrection, before the speech at the Ellipse. Let's not forget, this happened the weekend prior to the special elections in Georgia, the weekend prior to Donald Trump and the Ellipse and, the people breaking in and crapping in the U.S. Capitol. I mean, such a disgraceful thing. It all happened prior, though. He made these calls. He was still trying to pressure election officials. And let's not forget, post-election, right here in the great state of Wisconsin, Robin Vos, has been being pressured by this man to decertify the outcome of the 2020 election in the state of Wisconsin. It's 2023 now. He's still getting phone calls from the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about a recurring nightmare for Robin Vos, who isn't a hero in this play anyway, because he appointed Gableman to run a circus here on the what happened in 2020. And Ron Johnson has culpability here in Wisconsin as well. And there needs to be accountability for Ron Johnson too. But listen, the guy who's at the head of the chain, Donald Trump, needs to face the music on the seditious conspiracy. And if he faces the music in Georgia, that's great. He needs to face the music from the attorney general as well.
Well, I'd be just fine with the second round of federal charges, but I want to see the state charges in Georgia, because a future Republican president couldn't pardon away state charges in Georgia. And in fact, the Georgia Republican governor, Brian Kemp, couldn't pardon them away either. They don't have that right, not the governor, that have to change the law. But Republicans, they'd be more than willing to change the law if it came to pardon their guy for the crime of insurrection.
But I just want to find.
That's fine. I mean, this should be an open and shut case. And so I can't wait for those indictments in Georgia. I can't wait for them coming out of the Justice Department, but make it happen soon. I'm dying here.
844-967-2789. We got callers. Let's get to them right now. No dying here. Jake from Eureka, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Devils? Brad Raffensperger down in Georgia, he released that tape because in the rest of that tape, of course, Trump, threatens him personally with the Justice Department. Wants to go sick the Justice Department of Raffensperger unless he finds the exact number of votes it would take to give Trump a victory.
You make a great point, Jake. It wasn't just that he wanted him to find the votes. It's that he threatened Raffensperger with criminal investigation and prosecution if he didn't go find the votes.
Exactly. Yeah, that phone conversation went on for like over an hour, and yeah, Trump was out of his mind with his abuse of power. That's the whole point here. Is Trump was a tyrant. Okay, that's the big difference between Trump and Biden. You know, we all know Trump took those documents, top secret classified documents, for nefarious purposes. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, we all know that. And here's the thing. Apparently, the big story of the day should have been that the special prosecutor on the January 6th case has intensified his subpoenas on Trump, including, you know, the whole aspect of where did all this money come for, you know, Trump's political activities there on January 6th for organizing the rally. So they look at this apparently as an organized crime, like a RICO prosecution. So if I were Donald Trump, I would shut the hell up right about now.
I don't think he has the good sense, Jake. Appreciate you calling. Trump doesn't have the good sense to shut the
He can't
bleep
control
up.
himself. He just can't. He's helpless when he's on social media. But I do think that Jake's right, that the walls are closing in on Trump, and that's one of the reasons he's screaming in all caps and 3 exclamation points every time he gets on his Truth Network or whatever the hell he calls it.
All caps and 3 exclamation. I mean, I like to live my life in all caps and 3 exclamation points. Folks, we'll take your calls. Coming back on the other side. I tease. Hopefully I haven't lost you already. Join us. 844-967-2789. We won't yell at you, but I may shout at you in all caps, but only on the social medias at Devil Radio or at the Devil's Advocates Radio on Facebook. Come back right here on Civic Media, Devil's Advocates.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
We ain't found.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man, embarrassing Republicans. And you're still with the guy? This is your front runner in 2024? You've been smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack. What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Overcast tonight with a chance for mixed precipitation changing to all snow. Lows around 24. North winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Daytime highs approaching 31. Tomorrow, a blend of clouds and sun. Mainly clear skies tomorrow night. Lows level off around 16. Upper 30s Saturday. Mid 40s Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Coming up on tomorrow's big show, I got the CEO of Civic Media, Sage Wild, my partner, joining me at 4:30. We're going to look forward to a big year in 2023. We're building out the Death Star, and we're going to turn this SOB on. Can't wait. New stations coming real soon. We'll talk about them tomorrow. right here on the Devil's Advocates. But I got to find Co-Devil for at least one more segment till the end of the big Thursday edition. He is Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We appreciate you coming around, Matt, and we appreciate the callers joining us at 844-967-2789. We got some favorites coming up here in the queue. Hang on tight. Speed round. Rico from Rock County. What do you got for us, Rico?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I just wanted to, this whole thing with the paperwork crime we call it, hey, this reminds me of that old story. We've all heard it, the little kid goes down to Jones's Five and Dime, and he takes the candy bar, and he gets away with it. That's the important point. Gets home, mom and dad, hey, you need to go back down there, tell him you took that candy bar, and you pay Mr. Jones and apologize. Well, the flip side to that story always was about the other kid. See, the other kid goes down there, backs up the truck, takes everything in the damn store, then gets home, talks to his old man, and the old man says, "Did anybody see you? Did you get away with it? Yeah, good job, killer." That's the flip side to that story.
So, Rico, I appreciate you casting the story. Who are the characters in the story, just so I understand? Who's driven the truck up to the landfill here and loaded up?
Oh, that'd be Mr. Donnie himself, and he's driving the truck.
So you're suggesting that Joe Biden got caught with a pack of gum down at the Five and Dime, got slapped on the wrist, and is down there apologizing, saying, "How much do I owe you for the gum?" And the difference is Donald Trump and his buddies got a whole truckload of beer out the back door, and he ain't coming back, not unless you catch him at the state line. Something like that?
Yeah, and we all know where it goes. It's the system, man. We all know it. He commits the crime. Okay, we'll collect the evidence. We're going to make it to trial. And by the way, we all want to see it on television, too. And when we get that far, they're going to make a decision. I don't know about you guys. There's going to be Vegas odds on this stuff, right? So my money is on Mr. Biden and his lawyers, as opposed to middle Donnie down here with what he's got left representing him. And I'll tell you what, that's where my money's going to be on.
Well, appreciate the call, Rico. Should we be having a horse race on which former or current president gets indicted first on paperwork crimes?
I don't know. I like the analogy.
I got 3-2 on Trump.
But the candy bar, it's not like he returned it the day after. It's getting kind of stale 6 years later.
Yeah, on the expiration date.
Yes.
If he'd have, if this was what, 2016, 17, and Joe Biden was saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I left the place. I got some work documents at the house. I got to return these documents." In 2017, perhaps the year after the Biden administration, when he was the VP under Obama, but we already had a full 4 years of Trump, 2 years of Biden. So that's 6 years and counting.
I just, when did it cross his mind that, maybe we should go through that box in the garage?
I don't know. 844-967-2789. So much for the speed round. Dick from Madison. Welcome, fellow. What do you got for us?
Well, obviously, one of the talking heads say the optics of this don't look good. And here's what I especially don't like about it, personally, is, correct me if I'm wrong, once Jack Smith gets done with all of this, let's say he's the pit bull that he is, and he wants to bring heavy charges on Trump, doesn't Merrick Garland have to sign off on it?
Correct.
Finally?
Ultimately, it's still the Attorney General's ultimate decision whether or not he follows the recommendation of the special counsel.
And what I'm saying, guys, is I'm sorry. Biden's thing might have been an unforced error at best, but what I think Merrick Garland will do is just roll over and say, "No, I'm not going to do this because, now that this happened, it'll look." He won't say that publicly, but it'll look.
So you think both men are going to escape prosecution because Merrick Garland doesn't want to be perceived as political, Dick?
Yep.
But Dick, it's possible that Jack Smith and Merrick Garland are not going to go after him for Mar-a-Lago, but I got to believe they're going to go after him for January 6th.
Yeah, I appreciate your call, Dick. I cannot imagine. I'm going to move to Canada if like 3 years from now, Trump's not sitting in a federal pen somewhere, or at least in a Fulton County jail.
Save that tape.
For his, attacks against democracy, man.
I mean, he's got to be held accountable. And I agree with you all along. Mar-a-Lago's not the big thing.
I'm willing.
The big thing's January 6th.
Here's what I'll say to you, Trumpsters. I am willing to look past all the small criminalities. It's the big ones I don't want to forgive. And I don't care if it's Trump or Biden, although it's very galling to me. Again, I want to hold my politicians beyond reproach, but we're all human. We're all human. And we all make mistakes. And at least Joe Biden has, to date, my understanding, the reporting thereof, he's acknowledged the mistake. Does he change? Does it make it better? Is there a political price to pay? We'll see. We'll see.
And I've got Republican friends, and Republican friends don't like what happened on January 6th either. A lot of them.
844-967-2789. You're not talking about Ron Johnson or Bob Spindell. They must not be your buddies.
No, nor Gableman. But your average Republican voter, a lot of those people didn't like the storming of the Capitol on January 6th.
Well, most of them would be down for legalized recreational marijuana too, and there's no path to legalization. Republicans tell us, at least Robin Voss does. Pete's Box, how you doing, fella? Last word of the day.
Yeah, well, with all these witch hunts, it just leads me to one conclusion. There's a lot of goddamn witches in America. And no, I don't think they're going to be prosecuted because I'm pretty sure there's vampires and werewolves there now, too. What do you think?
Well, you're starting to sound like Herschel Walker a little bit there. I think Herschel was team vampire, or was it?
He was talking about vampires. But look, I mean, it's not a good day for Joe Biden. And the Trump folks can crow about it all they want on Fox News, but Trump's day is coming.
No, I think it will. Matt, today was your day, man. I appreciate you helping me make it a little more palatable for the audience. Hell, I think it was a swell broadcast. What do you think?
Well, I always have fun coming on, and you're doing a great job here, and Civic Media is doing a great job, so it's an honor to be with you.
Well, tomorrow we're going to talk with the CEO of Civic Media, and I'm going to try to work at least one of our legal eagles into the mix. But today it was Matt Rothschild, Co-Devlin from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Look them up. Help them out. That's a great organization. Appreciate when you do so. Don't forget, Raised in the Wisco with Joel Clayfish, recording live, going live on WAUK at 7 o'clock. Native Roots Radio in the meantime. And don't forget, we got the $1 million advertising giveaway. Starts January 26th. Get your small business ready. You get some free advertising. Thanks for listening, Devil's Advocates. We do it for your listening pleasure.